And one of the people that has helped this team activity is next on the list. And he has experience here on the TRPA board. If you remember, Nevada Governor Brian Sandoval knows Tahoe. He's lived it. He's been here. His common goals have been our common goals. He renewed his state commitment to that spirit earlier this year when he signed a bill recommitting Nevada to the Tahoe Compact. Please welcome Governor Sandoval.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's always a pleasure to follow Congressman Amade and the Vice President, and you might have saw I brought up a little prop with me, but it's unfortunate that the Vice President had to leave early for that very important board meeting because I had something for him. My mom has recently moved back to Nevada, and we were going through her things, and we discovered something, and I thought I would present it to him today, but this is his inaugural poster from the first election, and I thought he would enjoy and appreciate that, but hopefully we can get it to him. But I wanted to thank you, Senator. He does look young in that picture. I wanted to present it to him because, as was mentioned, I had the privilege of serving on the TRPA 17 years ago, and I had the opportunity and privilege of attending that first summit. And I know, and I mentioned this last night at dinner, I know the Vice President didn't remember me meeting him, but I certainly remembered meeting him. And just a tremendous, tremendous legacy. And I think it's really important that we pause for a moment what it meant for he and President Clinton to come here today so that we could be all here 17 years later. You know, we gather here today, we've heard a lot of adjectives, but to recommit to the generational promise to preserve and protect one of the Earth's finest treasures. And Senator Reid, I want to thank you for your leadership through the year. Senator Feinstein, again, for your sponsorship of that very important federal legislation. Governor Brown, it's such a privilege to be with you today, and a lot of folks don't know this, but you know, it also was mentioned that we had signed that legislation, or I had signed that legislation a few short months ago, but what I will call even more importantly than signing that bill was the opportunity to travel to Sacramento and meet with the governor and discuss these very important issues. And as I mentioned to him last night and even today, you know, Paul Laxalt is one of my mentors, and I believe it's an absolute responsibility on my part to continue that legacy that he and President Reagan had started, and I see it continuing now between Governor Brown and I. And it's fun for me to have this event here at Sand Harbor. I mean, we all have our Sand Harbor stories, and you know, I wasn't cleaning toilets or picking up rocks or cleaning trash or whatever, but I was here 40 years ago playing out on the rocks and swimming out on the beach. And it's truly one of the gifts that we have in the state of Nevada to have, you know, we've got some of our state parks folks who preserve it so well. If you would just raise your hand and be acknowledged for what you do. When you think about it, this park gets 1 million visitors a year. It is the most visited state park in the state of Nevada. I think it's also important, and I know it's been mentioned today, that we acknowledge our Native Americans. This is their ancestral home, and it's a privilege and honor to be in your presence as well. Now, I was looking at some of the program materials, and this year's theme is A Clean Lake Legacy, Preserving Tahoe and the Environment for Future Generations. And I think that's obviously, while we're all here, we understand what we have, but also what it's going to mean so that our children and our grandchildren and the generations to come can share this or enjoy it just like we have. And you know, the regional plan update was mentioned, and it was adopted by the TRPA. I think the members of the TRPA deserve a big hand. It took a lot of courage to adopt that. And that's a combination of the TRPA staff, the governing board, the environmental community, members of the business community, local residents and representatives. It truly was, and it's going to be an overused word today, this collaboration, this teamwork to get things done. So as the Vice President said, this will be a model not only for our two states, but our nation and the world. And Mr. Ambassador, it's such a pleasure that you're here today. I hope that someday that I have the opportunity to visit your great country and see that lake as well. Now, I don't think it's appropriate for me to go on. We have that American fire that was going on today, and I see the firefighters here, the leaders of the firefighter community. And just think about, as we sit here, on the beach in this great sand and wonderful backdrop, there are those firefighters, hundreds if not thousands of them, fighting that fire a short distance from here to help preserve what we have. Please thank them for their courage, for what they're doing today. Now, just a short few words about talking about Nevada's commitment. As I mentioned, we've mentioned Senate Bill 229 and why it was a priority. Economic, healthy communities provide a necessary foundation for continued environmental gains at Lake Tahoe. The EIP program continues to be our shared roadmap to the restoration of the Lake Tahoe Basin watershed. We're using the newest and best practices, the latest available science. The state of Nevada continues to honor our commitment to this great lake and to prioritize funding for forest restoration, water clarity improvements, stream restoration, recreation enhancements, and invasive species management. I'm also pleased to report, and I'm very proud, Leo Drozdoff, I wanted to acknowledge him today for his leadership and what happens here in our great state, that the Nevada jurisdictions will likely meet their 5-year milestones in pollutant reductions and appear to be well on their way to meeting or exceeding all the other milestones, and that's due to your leadership and many others. Thank you, Leo. And it was also mentioned about the stream zone environment. I know that they are some of the greatest contributors to the sediments to the lake, and we are working on the third and incline creeks. The two creeks are the largest contributors of fine sediments. And I want to thank all of our partners in this great work, the Nevada Tahoe Conservation District, IVGID, Washoe County, Glenbrook Community, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and Bureau of Reclamation. Another example of this teamwork to get things done up here. Now, I mentioned about the wildfires. Governor Brown and I, immediately before we met today, signed an agreement or continued a proclamation that reconfirms the bi-state effort that began with the California-Nevada Tahoe Basin Fire Commission created after the Angora fire. Today's proclamation displays the continued cooperative work by our two states to protect people, property, and natural resources of the basin through fuel treatment projects, defensible space inspections, and aggressive public education campaigns. Governor Brown, thank you for your teamwork. So in closing, it's a privilege and honor to be here today. There are so many people that are responsible for all of us being on this stage, and I look out and I see everyone in the audience. I'm so proud of our Nevada legislators that I see out here and how we were able to work together. The Nevada Secretary of State is here, and I know he sits on the TRPA and has a great commitment to Lake Tahoe. Our federal representatives, the state representatives who work here, those representatives from California. I could go on and on. Our county commissioners, our city council people, everyone is here, and I know that when it comes to Nevada, you have our future commitment to do whatever it takes to continue to preserve the greatest place on earth, Lake Tahoe. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Governor. A longtime proponent, has instituted cutting-edge protections in California that have led the nation. He recognizes that protecting the environment is fundamental to Tahoe's prosperity. This year, through meeting with Governor Sandoval, he helped ensure that California and Nevada would continue their long history of collaboration. I particularly admire Governor Brown for his insight, and I quote, "We are in a very exciting time. A lot of risk, a lot of danger. I think the lake stands as a microcosm of the larger issues we face as a people. Governor Brown.